Rihanna was shopping at the grocery store in the morning rush of New York. She was wearing a simple hooded sweatshirt and sunglasses. She pushed the cart to the vegetable section and examined the avocados. "They're all fresh. Can I help you?" An employee standing next to her asked. Rihanna smiled slightly. "No, thank you," she replied politely. The employee backed away, embarrassed. Rihanna noticed the attitude of the people around her. Some customers were taking a step back, as if to give her space. A few people gave her a quick glance and then looked away. When another customer came over to pick up the avocados, Rihanna smiled at him, but he averted his eyes from her for a moment. Taking a deep breath, Rihanna looked away and continued shopping. The feeling of discomfort had not gone away. It was as if everyone was trying to avoid her. Just then, a voice was heard a few steps away. A middle-aged, elegantly dressed woman looked at Rihanna out of the corner of her eye and whispered to her friend, "What are they doing here? This is not their place." Rihanna turned her head slightly and looked into the woman's eyes. The woman smiled indifferently at Rihanna's gaze and, taking another step, continued, "What are black people doing here? This is no place for them," she said, her voice a little higher. Rihanna continued to look patiently into the woman's eyes. Anger was growing inside her, but she was determined not to let it show on the outside. She quickly pushed the shopping cart away from where she was standing. But the woman's voice still echoed in her ears. When she didn't get a reaction from Rihanna, the woman smiled in relief, turned her head, and continued on her way. Rihanna looked after the woman for a while. Taking a deep breath, she tried to calm herself down, but in that moment, no matter how strong she was, she felt a vulnerability that she did not project. After a few seconds of silence, Rihanna took a deep breath and spoke gently. "Excuse me, ma'am. This market is for everyone, right?" The woman took a step back, shrugging her shoulders sarcastically at Rihanna's calm demeanor. "Of course, dear. Well, you misunderstood what I said," she said, her voice a little lower, but still with a slight sense of superiority. Looking patiently into her eyes, Rihanna replied, "I think I understood what you said very clearly," she said, each word settling heavily. The woman hesitated for a moment, a brief look of discomfort in her eyes, but then she looked away and smiled. Rihanna's cool and confident stance was a little unexpected for her. But she kept smiling, no matter how uncomfortable she felt, and took a few steps back and continued on her way. Rihanna continued her shopping with a slight bow of her head. Her anger had begun to dissipate slightly, but the impact of his words still lingered in her mind. The woman's sarcastic smile and what she said instantly took Rihanna back to the past. At that moment, the humiliating words and belittling she had experienced in the past suddenly came to life in her mind. The bullying she experienced as a child, the faces of those who insulted her at the beginning of her career, all of them made him feel that the wounds he had buried years ago were reopening. Her eyes misted briefly, but she quickly recovered. In that moment, she saw again the Rihanna of the past. Younger, more fragile, a girl who felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, growing lonelier with every step. The cruel words spoken to her had always hurt. Phrases like, "This is not their place," always left deep scars. For a moment, Rihanna couldn't control her anger, but she took a deep breath and lowered her eyes to the ground. "I shouldn't feel this," she thought. However, from time to time, the traces of the past did not stop haunting her soul. Amidst the noise of the grocery store, Rihanna felt a wave of anger when she heard the woman's voice. The woman approached Rihanna and raised her voice. "Are you insinuating something, or are you belittling me?" Rihanna responded patiently but firmly. "No, I'm just suggesting that you have some respect for yourself." With a mocking look in her eyes, the woman said, "People like you are always like that. You don't know what to do. You should know your place," she said. Rihanna had lost her patience. "Someone like you has no right to say that to me. I've been belittled enough." The woman stepped back, almost shocked, and with one last look said sarcastically, "Are you trying to threaten me? That's what people like you always do," and walked out of the store. Rihanna continued shopping, trying to get her anger out of her system, but the woman's words still echoed in her mind. A young girl excitedly approached Rihanna as she made her way to the checkout. "Rihanna, is it really you? I love you. Your songs always inspire me." Rihanna smiled and nodded her head. "Thank you. That's really nice of you." The woman took a step back and grunted. "She has fans everywhere. What a coincidence, really." Rihanna turned to the young girl, not letting on that she had heard the woman's remark. "You have to think about how you see yourself. What people say can never change who you are." The woman smiled and said, "Of course, everyone has a fan base." Rihanna replied calmly, "Yes, but it's not what you tell people. It's who you are. Respect yourself." She narrowed her eyes and raised her voice a little higher. "Everything is clear to me. Celebrities are always pampered, but this world doesn't really care about anyone." Rihanna replied coldly, "Then we should stop thinking about the world and think about how we should treat people." The woman quickly walked away from the checkout without saying anything. Rihanna made eye contact with the girl, smiled, and continued to finish her shopping and exit the checkout. The woman had completely lost her patience and addressed Rihanna again. "People like you get everything so easily. You are so lucky. You don't appreciate anything." Rihanna coolly turned to the woman and looked patiently into her eyes. "What you call luck is actually years of struggle, perseverance, and hardship. I didn't get anything easy. Everyone should be able to see that." The woman laughed condescendingly. "You always say that, but when people meet someone like you, they think everything is easy. How easy it must be to achieve success because of your looks." Rihanna patiently took a deep breath and spoke without taking her eyes from his for a moment. "Maybe it's not my looks that you see, but people's interest in me and my talents. This is not easy. True success is caring for others and finding your own path." The woman was silent for a moment, but still nodded sarcastically. "Sure, that's what everyone says. The truth hurts, my dear." Rihanna replied with a slight tilt of her head. "The truth is that judging people by their appearance only shows that you don't understand who they are." Hearing these words, the woman pursed her lips in anger and quickly headed for the checkout. As Rihanna looked after the woman, she put aside her anger and thought for a short while. Facing prejudices had always taught her something. The crowd inside the supermarket was watching the tension between Rihanna and the woman. Various customers were looking at each other, some shyly averting their eyes, others openly listening. One man stepped boldly forward and turned towards her. "Ma'am, this is really not the place for such prejudices," he said, his voice firm and gentle. The woman responded with a harsh shout without losing the mocking expression on her face. "There was nothing bad in what I said. It's just an opinion. No need to make a big deal out of it." Taking a deep breath, Rihanna remained calm and turned to the woman standing behind him. "It's not just an opinion, ma'am. What you are saying is prejudice that can harm others. You need to realize that." The woman rolled her eyes in anger when she heard Rihanna's words. "Do you always talk like that? People are afraid to say anything anymore. Everyone should have their own opinion." Rihanna replied calmly but firmly, "Yes, everyone can have an opinion. But there is a limit to insulting someone else, to belittling them. We all need to have goodness, tolerance, and understanding." The crowd fell silent. The man stood next to Rihanna and gave her one last look, then stepped back and settled at a safe distance. The other customers slowly looked at each other, some nodding, others listening to the small whispers between them. Rihanna didn't say anything more, not wanting the atmosphere to become even more tense. But deep in her heart, she was determined to continue fighting against such prejudice. Rihanna, realizing the tension of the situation, took a step back. Taking a deep breath, she turned to the crowd and began to speak in a way that would be heard. "Sometimes we express our prejudices without realizing it. But doesn't that mean we should question them?" Suddenly, the crowd went silent and everyone started to listen to what Rihanna was saying. The woman turned away angrily, but Rihanna's words hung in the air. Rihanna continued, "We are all human and sometimes we are wrong, but accepting that is the first step to healing. We need to be more careful and respectful to each other. No one should be treated differently, especially because of their color or origin. The woman was still silent after Rihanna's words, but her expression of anger had faded. The crowd was slowly trying to digest what Rihanna had said. Most of them realized how damaging it was to underestimate or prejudge anyone. The determination in Rihanna's voice touched not only her, but also the people around her. After leaving the checkout, Rihanna turned to the young girl, smiled, and said, "No matter what happens, don't stop believing in yourself. It's not how people see you, it's how you see yourself." The young girl nodded with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Rihanna. That means a lot to me," she said. Rihanna took a few steps and then took a deep breath. Her hardships had always taught her one thing. It was necessary to move forward with her own strength, not with people's prejudices. Life is about inspiring people, not just fighting prejudice, she thought. As she left the market, Rihanna's steps were more determined and hopeful. A moment of courage and the right word could start a change. As the sun shone on her face, she would continue to feel this strength and determination in every moment of her life.